Today, it is impossible to recycle technology, and the situation is so critical that to try to stop this disaster, brands are going to be forced to take a step back. Removable batteries are coming back. To give you an idea of the problem, your cell phone isn't a puzzle, it's a sandwich sealed with toxic glues and a mixture of almost 70 elements from the periodic table. For years, they sold us the illusion that an Apple robot recycles everything, or that turning in your old Samsung saves the planet. But this is a lie. Today, I'm going to show you where your digital trash really goes, why it is physically and economically impossible to recycle it, why modern design destroyed recycling forever, and how governments themselves had to intervene so this problem doesn't get out of hand. Something that ironically didn't happen in past eras. If we go back to the 90s or early 2000s, technology had a completely different philosophy than it does today. For many, the golden age of electronics. If you picked up one of those huge, heavy laptops, you would notice something fascinating. The battery was a block that you popped out with a button. The keyboard came out in one piece, and the motherboard, hard drive, and RAM were separate, joined by standard connectors and screws. If something broke, you bought the module, removed 3 or 4 screws, swapped it, and the machine was reborn. Things were manufactured to be opened and repaired. Today, that doesn't exist. For example, the device you are watching me on right now. That modular design has disappeared. To make your cell phone 1 millimeter thinner or resistant to falling into water, brands eliminated the screws. Today, your phone is a solid block hermetically sealed with industrial glues and toxic resins. Inside that sealed block, there isn't just plastic, copper, and a little bit of gold. There is a soup of almost 70 different elements from the periodic table. You can find things like gold, cobalt, lithium, tungsten, and many more. What are known as rare earths, all melted, soldered, and glued at a microscopic level. Trying to recycle and separate that is exactly like making applesauce. You can take a whole apple, cut it, boil it, and mash it. But that is an irreversible process. Once you have the mash, it is physically and chemically impossible to put all the pieces back together to recreate the original perfect apple. The exact same thing happens with your cell phone. The energy, chemical, and economic cost of unsticking those 70 toxic elements is so absurdly high that it is much cheaper for the industry to blow up a new mountain in Africa, to mine new metals than to try to recover the ones in your old phone. Basic science and economics tell us that recycling the modern technology we have today is a dead end. It is literally impossible. But if basic physics tells us it can't be done, what is Daisy the robot, Apple's recycler? If you go to Apple's official site or watch their presentations, they'll show you Daisy, a spectacular state-of-the-art robot capable of taking apart 200 iPhones per hour. It tells you that it recycles over 1 million phones a year to recover their materials. And when you hear that, you think, wow, the future is here and the problem is completely solved. But let's do some basic math. Daisy disassembles with luck 1.2 million iPhones a year. Let's give it a number of 2 million. That sounds like a lot, right? Until you realize that Apple manufactures and sells more than 200 million new iPhones that same year. Daisy is not a solution at scale, it is a theatrical performance. It's what the industry calls greenwashing. It's a marketing campaign so that when you buy a new iPhone, you don't feel guilty about doing it. And if you don't use Apple, it doesn't matter, because other brands do exactly the same thing. What happens when you go to Samsung or any other company and trade in your old phone as a form of payment to get a discount? They sell you the idea that the device will be recycled or refurbished and sold in markets like, for example, India. But the brutal reality is that carefully taking your cell phone apart by hand is so expensive that it's more profitable for the industry to just throw it into a shredder. They tear it to pieces, break the glass, the battery, the board, and mix all those elements into a single uniform mass that they later try to separate with various aggressive chemicals. The result of that is so poor and so polluting that often those phones are exported directly in containers to giant landfills in third world countries. Now, if engineers know this, why do they do it? Why does technology seem to be designed this way? So that when it stops working, we throw it in the trash. And that's it. The official answer we always hear is that it's to make them more durable or water resistant. It's to make it thinner. And yes, the truth is that this helps with that, but that is only half the story. The other half, the one nobody wants you to know, is that we are looking at a business model designed for total control. Let's do a simple thought exercise. If a phone is screwed together with simple parts, you can open it, you can change the battery for about $20, or repair a charging port that failed. But if the phone is glued with industrial resins, to dissolve them you have to handle chemical elements that are difficult to obtain and dangerous. And you also need industrial machinery that costs thousands of dollars. Opening it isn't maintenance, it's high-risk surgery where it is most likely that if you do it by hand, you'll break the phone forever. So for brands, design becomes a tool of coercion. It's not that they can't use screws, the thing is, they don't want what you buy to be truly yours so you can repair it on your own. If you can't repair it, you have to pay them to do it, or worse yet, you have to buy a brand new device directly. This model of making things impossible to repair was by far the perfect business for years. The numbers added up, stocks rose, and we bought a new model every 2 or 3 years, happy as can be. But companies have just hit a brick wall, a wall so immense that it cannot be ignored. We are literally running out of ingredients to keep baking this technological compote. To manufacture a new phone, the industry needs to get all those ingredients again. Lithium for the battery, cobalt, nickel, copper, gold, tungsten, the famous rare earths. You've surely heard this term before. These are materials that don't magically appear inside a factory, but rather are formed in our planet's crust over millions and millions of years. And to obtain a tiny amount of any of these materials, often you have to blast, crush, and process entire tons of rock. In many open-pit gold mines, an entire ton of ore can contain barely between 1 and 4 grams of gold. This means that to get a single gram of gold, you have to crush more than a ton of rock. And for decades, this system worked because there was always a new mountain, a new mine, or a new country opening its doors, where it was cheaper and easier to get these resources. But there is a problem. The best concentrations, the most accessible, and the cheapest to exploit are not infinite and are running out. Here we need to clarify something important. This doesn't mean that tomorrow we're going to wake up and lithium will have disappeared from the planet's crust. No, we are very far from that. Rather, it means something more complicated. We increasingly need to move more earth, spend more energy, use more water, and generate more waste to obtain the same amount of material. The ingredients still exist and will for many years, but getting them is becoming increasingly difficult, expensive, and destructive. And while we do all that to manufacture new phones, we are committing an absurd contradiction. Because the materials we are desperate to pull from the earth we already have. They are right here inside. Your old phone is not just trash, it is a small artificial mine. As we saw before, it has copper, gold, aluminum, lithium, cobalt, tungsten, and dozens of other materials that have already been extracted, refined, and processed. Ironically, we already did the hardest part of taking them out of the ground. But instead of recovering them or designing them so that in 5 years we can reuse them, we seal all those materials inside a glued block almost impossible to open. We use it for 1 or 2 years and then throw it in a drawer to be forgotten. For years, companies tried to solve this problem, as we saw before, by looking for new mines, new countries where it was easier and cheaper to get these rare earths. But there came a point where governments themselves realized something. It makes no sense to break more mountains, end up digging craters in the earth, when the materials we are looking for there already exist in our devices. And these are in landfills, in containers, and in technology that is no longer used. And that is where they began to intervene, right? Not to kindly ask Apple, Samsung, or various companies to stop doing that, but to force them. The European Union approved a new regulation that, starting in 2027, requires that batteries incorporated into devices must be removable and replaceable. In other words, the battery that the industry spent more than a decade gluing inside our tech devices had to come back out. But how do you put a removable battery back inside a modern, ultra-thin, and water-resistant phone without returning to the plastic cell phones of 20 years ago? The answer to this is that removable batteries will indeed return, but possibly not in the way we think. The law does not force companies to manufacture a Nokia from the 2000s again. It forces them to do something much more important: that the battery stops being condemned to die inside the phone. And here's the detail that many headlines got wrong. When we hear removable battery, we imagine this. You take off the cover, pull out the battery, put in another, and that's it. But legally, a replaceable battery doesn't necessarily have to come out in 5 seconds. The phone can still have screws, it can use water seals, it can use internal connectors, and it may even require some basic tools. What changes is that replacing it should no longer become an absurd operation where you need to heat up the phone, dissolve glues with chemicals, and break adhesives permanently, risking the screen or any other component that costs half the device. The idea isn't that the battery should fall out on its own. The idea is that it can be removed and replaced without destroying the phone in the process. And this completely destroys the excuse that brands have used for years. Because yes, a phone can still be thin, it can still be elegant, and continue to be water resistant, while also having a replaceable battery. It was not physically impossible, it was simply more convenient and profitable not to do it. Now you're probably saying, well, this applies to the European Union. Elsewhere in the world, Apple and Samsung will keep making phones that can't be opened, or if you open them, you'll break them. The truth is no. Creating one type of phone for Europe and another for the rest of the world is economically unfeasible for companies. That is why, even though the order originates in Europe, its consequences may end up reaching the phone you buy in Latin America, in Asia, or practically anywhere. A removable battery is not a return to the past. True progress will always be that when a part breaks, you swap it out and repair the device. You don't throw it away completely. So yes, removable batteries are coming back to solve a large part of the major problem of recycling our futuristic technology. But I want to know your opinion. Do you think removable batteries will be like we talked about in this video, or that you'll be able to pop them out in 5 seconds to revive your phone in a minute? Leave me your comments in the box below and leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Share this video with someone who might be interested in this topic or the topics on this channel, and we'll see you in the next one.